Good evening. I shall be reading to you a lost passage, previously unheard of but recently unearthed, in the tome of the Damiani. Long before the new era, the time of the Easy Allies, and even earlier than the time before the days of game trailers. There was the time before time. Back then, the world was in an age of chaos. After a long journey from his home in the Lone Star to the flash and glamour of the Golden State, the adventurer thought he had finally found what he was looking for in life. A loving friend, a home to call his own, and work to keep him challenged during the day. But at night, his true passion could bloom, the pursuit of gaming. Without earning a single extra dollar for his efforts, he tirelessly ran a fan site with the intent of covering the video game industry. At first, its focus was on The Legend of Zelda. But soon it expanded to cover all things Nintendo. Eventually, it aspired to focus on the entire industry, from Nintendo to Sony to Microsoft. Seemed too good to be true. But all good things must come to an end. Disaster struck not long after, and the young adventurer tasted bitter defeat for the first time. Within this fallen hero timeline, he had lost everything. Separated from the things that made him so happy, he no longer felt like a hero. It was in this moment that the first thoughts of giving up crossed his mind. Perhaps he had been wrong to undertake this journey, this fool's errand. Maybe it was time to return to whence he came and toil in obscurity. But then, when all hope had died and the hour of doom seemed at hand, the phone rang. In his desperation, the adventurer had dispatched ravens to all corners of the realm in hopes of turning his passion into something more than a hobby. But the cause of his birds fell upon deaf ears at House IGN, House GameSpot, and even House 1UP. Yet finally, a reply had come from the little-known House Game Trailers, who swore fealty to the kingdom of Viacom. Skeptical at first, since the kingdom of Viacom and its houses, like House MTV, weren't exactly known for their video game prowess. The young lad realized, though, he had no other options. So he took a leap of faith and made the long journey north up the treacherous 405 to meet with the Lord of House Game Trailers to see what awaited. When he arrived, the sights and sounds were unlike anything known to him. Their gear and tools were far more impressive than anything he had come across, with their capture stations and entire servers dedicated to video game footage. And their language was of such a strange dialect, as he heard the one named Rich Brown utter the word predator over and over again to the one they called Blood. The name did its job of intimidating the young adventurer, who was clearly out of his league. The members of House GT were a well-oiled fighting machine and a sight to behold. So he took a deep breath, calmed himself, and steeled his nerves for whatever would be thrown at him next. Entering the Lord's chamber, he offered words of introduction and greeting to break the ice. The two then had a long talk about the realm of video games and the adventurer's history. He laid before the Lord his claims and deeds, covering the major events of the age like E3, GDC, and San Diego Comic-Con. Surprised that such a person without even the ways and means of a lesser house of the realm could have secured passage into such prestigious events, the Lord was clearly intrigued. The Lord was also equally pleased with his body of work and how he had been capable of managing an entire site and staff while holding down a grueling day job. The young adventurer had passed his first test, displaying the commitment, passion, and determination needed to be a member of House GT. But there was still the question of his skill. After all, anyone can pen an article or post a video online. But was it quality or was it gutter trash? The Lord of House GT then proclaimed it was time to begin the test of skill. Just like in the legendary tale of the wizard, the young man would be given a sudden and random test for which he could not have prepared. The Lord handed him a copy of the Spiderwick Chronicles for Xbox 360 and stated he had 30 minutes to deliver a full written review of the game. Knowing this was probably their version of the Kobayashi Maru, as there was simply no way to review a console game in 30 minutes, he decided quickly how he would approach this test. By focusing on the initial area of the game, he played for about 10 minutes to get a feel for the controls, the visuals, and the design. He then began to pen a mini review of what he encountered in the game, pointing out flaws here and there, such as inadequate platforming mechanics, frame rate dips, and the worst of all, poor hit detection. Confident he had done his best with what he could, confident he had done the best he could with what he was given, the Lord signaled time was up. The young adventurer turned in his assignment and then parted ways with House GT after exchanging final goodbyes and thanks. As he began the arduous journey back south to his home, the young man was filled with determination and a renewed sense of hope. Perhaps there was a light at the end of the dark tunnel he had been stuck in for so long. But 2 long months passed without a word. Doubt crept into his mind in that time. Perhaps his efforts were not as good as he thought. After all, who was he compared to all the seasoned veterans out there who must have also interviewed? Maybe it was just a dream after all, and all dreams must end. The harsh reality of his ever-worsening situation were taking the final toll on him. He was about to throw in the towel and prepare for the long trek back to the Lone Star, when on the most unlikeliest of days, the phone rang once again. A lady of House Viacom reached out to extend an official invitation to become the newest member of House GT. Alone and outside the walls of his current workplace, he did his best to remain calm and graciously accept the offer. But on the inside, it was hard to contain the joy he felt. And once the conversation concluded with the terms of his offer and the date of his induction, the young adventurer sat and let out his emotions. After experiencing loss after being told his pursuit was a waste of time, after questioning his own self-worth, and after losing faith that things would ever get better. Sometimes the randomness of life rolls you a one, but sometimes it rolls just high enough. 2 weeks later, he officially joined House GT and met his new family. Things wouldn't go smoothly at first, and year one was a bit rough. But eventually he settled in and found his place within the house. But again, everything that has a beginning has an end. History would repeat itself many years later down the road, throwing the seasoned adventurer into a similar situation after being sent away from House GT and the realm itself. Not long after his sudden departure, House GT itself fell into ruin and would be no more. But together, the last remaining survivors of House GT forged in secret a pact to make a new house. A house that would rise above its predecessor and become a beacon for all others in the realm. To those of you who sit here now, you know this as House Easy A. And we thank you for coming to our aid in our time of need and giving us the support we needed. So if it wasn't already understood, then let it be made clear. All of you here, all of you who have made this possible, you are all members of House CZA, and we couldn't be more proud of our family. The end.